Senator Perez, thank you so much for making time for us.
Of course, happy to be here.
You'd been calling for an investigation into State Farm, given what happened in your district. With what the California Insurance Commissioner laid out this week, I mean, is that what you were looking for?
Absolutely. I think the findings of the report proved what fire survivors have been saying for the past year, which is that State Farm was not treating them fairly. They were continuing to delay claims without justification, continuing to deny requests for smoke and ash remediation, and really causing harm to communities.
Do you think the potential suspension of State Farm's ability to do business in California, is that something that you would be okay with?
Well, obviously, I know there's a lot of concerns about accessibility in the insurance market, right? Especially given that there's been a homeowners insurance crisis that the state's been facing. I think if we are going to pause on State Farm's ability to be able to operate in the state, that we also need to go after their ability to write new auto insurance policies, because we know that's where they make a majority of their money to begin with.
State Farm is saying that that threat to, suspend their ability to do business here would be politically motivated and terrible for customers. How do you respond to that?
I think that we need to hold the largest insurer in the state accountable. When we see repeated violations, they looked at something like 200 claims, and in those 200 claims, almost half of them had violations. That's utterly unacceptable. If we cannot hold one of the largest insurers accountable for mishandling fire claims, then I don't know what we're doing as a state. This is part of our responsibility.
The spokesman for State Farm also said the state's insurance market is dysfunctional. How much of what has transpired to this point do you believe falls on the insurance commissioner and the Department of Insurance?
Look, I personally think that what we've seen happen here and how State Farm has treated disaster victims, unfortunately, is not unusual. We've seen this time and time again all over the country, and we've heard from fire survivors across the country that have had these same experiences with State Farm. So this isn't new. So when they try to put the blame on the state of California to say that's why they weren't able to deliver for fire victims, I just think that's absolutely false.
But was giving State Farm a rate increase from the Department of Insurance, was that the right move?
That was not the right move, and I was very vocal in saying that we needed to tie the results of this market conduct examination to the approval of that emergency rate increase. And I continued to press on that point, and fortunately that rate increase was still approved, and frankly, that was unacceptable. Why would we give a rate increase to a company that is continuing to mistreat its customers? There needs to be accountability.
Could that be considered a dysfunctional aspect of this insurance market? Obviously, it's a market in which only a few companies now at this point can even operate in. Your thoughts on that?
I'll be honest with you. Yes, I do think that that's a part of our dysfunction within the system, that we would even allow for a corporation to abuse its power and then reward them. Like that whole system of accountability, the regulators that we have here in the state are supposed to ensure that these companies are following the law. If any one of my constituents doesn't make payment on their insurance, they lose coverage. So when State Farm does it to hundreds, thousands of its customers, they get a small $2 million penalty? It's laughable.
What do you think needs to happen in the near term moving forward?
Well, I think it would be my preference that the Department of Insurance come in and really take over the handling of these cases to make sure that all fire survivors are getting their claims resolved immediately, especially after these findings. In addition to that, I think that the Department of Insurance needs to look at more claims past the 200 and something claims they looked at, so that we can see that penalty amount be increased. Right now, a $2 million fine does not match the crimes that have been committed, in my opinion. We talk about this in numbers, but these are fire survivors. those dollars have a direct impact on whether or not somebody is able to recover, somebody is able to go home. I know people that were living out of their cars, desperate with their children. It is utterly unacceptable.
State Farm, in their statement, noted that they've paid out $5.6 billion. They are fulfilling claims. How would you respond to that?
Certainly, and that is the case, and there are folks that we've seen get results in the process of seeking out their claims, and our office has been incredibly involved in many of those cases. That is how we became aware of this issue, is because we had individuals who were customers of State Farm reaching out to my office for assistance with navigating their claims process. But we still have hundreds of people that have not seen their claims resolved. That's a problem. So yes, it's good that folks got results, but we still have a whole population of people who still desperately need help.
And people who weren't on State Farm, I mean, from your understanding, are they not having these kinds of problems with other insurers?
I will say that there are other insurance companies where there have been challenges as well. And even with our own, the FAIR plan has also presented a challenge too for its customers. And there are insurance companies that have done very well too. I mean, we've heard really positive stories. So I'm very mindful of this, that this isn't just about a single company or a single corporation, but really, in my opinion, about making sure that we have laws in place to enforce that these companies are treating their customers fairly and equitably.
Just taking a step back from all of this, I mean, right before the fires broke out, the California Insurance Commissioner had just implemented this sweeping set of regulations that were meant to make it easier for the insurance market to come back to California with catastrophe modeling, with negotiations around what wildfire areas were being covered. Are we seeing the effects of that, or where does that effort really stand in all of this?
I know that there have been efforts to try to improve and stabilize the insurance market here in California. I personally, as somebody that's new to the legislature, feel as though there has been more of an emphasis on protecting industry rather than protecting the consumer. And what I have seen is that insurance companies are consistently delaying and denying payments out to those that have survived a disaster, which is utterly ridiculous. It's one of the most fundamental things that you depend on your insurance company being able to do after you've paid into them for decades in some cases. So I do think that there is a lot more work that we need to do as a legislature. Frankly, it's past time for us to implement new laws to hold this industry accountable.
Is it tough, though, with the time that we're in right now? I mean, is everything kind of on hold because Insurance Commissioner Latta has just months left in office? There's a whole election for a brand new insurance commissioner. Is this sort of on ice right now?
I mean, I certainly don't see it that way. I've been very aggressively pushing forward my own legislation related to creating penalties for insurance companies that are not paying out their claims in a timely manner, making sure that customers have access to all loss estimates. So for me, I am very motivated to respond in this moment. It doesn't really matter who is the insurance commissioner. And I make sure to make all of my colleagues in the legislature very aware of this. Even when we initially called for the market conduct examination, I went out of my way to sit down with my colleagues, to show them evidence, to show them letters from fire survivors in my district so they could understand the seriousness of the situation.
Do you feel the sense of urgency from them?
I do think that there's been a huge shift even in the year and a half that I've been in the legislature. When I first wrote that letter, there were only 2 members that signed on to it with me. It was Assemblymember Sade El-Hawari, whose mother lives in Altadena, and Senator Ben Allen, who represents the Palisades. It was just the 3 of us. And in that time, as I've continued to bring fire survivors up to the legislature, it has really, I think, opened people's eyes to this issue.
Is there anything else you think we should know?
I would just say that I think it's incredibly important that we continue to center fire survivors, these customers, their stories, their experiences as we work on this legislation, and as we continue to explore solutions to the crisis that the state's been facing. I worry sometimes that the discussions that we have up here, because Sacramento, is far away from a lot of our major cities, that it can be very disconnected to what's actually happening on the ground to everyday people. And I do think it's really incumbent upon us as legislators to make sure that we're connecting with folks on the ground to understand what people need.
Senator Perez, we really are grateful for your insight. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.